Today I am making the one quilt that will make you fall in love with quilting forever. We are doing the coolest variation of one of the most famous quilts, the trip around the world. This is not the quickest or the easiest quilt to make, but if you ever decide to do one quilt, this is it. You've probably seen the trip around the world quilt before. I actually made one a couple of weeks ago and I loved every single minute of it. You might be thinking, oh, this is impossible to make, without decades of experience and the patience of a monk. Look at all those tiny colorful squares making all this gorgeous pattern. The truth is, it is actually quite easy to make. And today we will be trying something new because we are doing a mini trip around the world. Well, several mini trips actually. I am telling you, this truly is the one pattern you need to learn how to make, because after this one, you will not want to make any other. And this is because we are doing small quilt blocks. It means we will be using our scrap pile to do it. We will need lots and lots of teeny tiny strips. A jelly roll would be perfect for this too. How I missed putting my scraps to good use. They've been piling up and it's time to take back control. Now let's get started by cutting all these pretty fabrics into 1.5-inch strips, or should I just rip them? Relax, I am using my rotary cutter today because I will not rip fabrics this narrow. Here we go, one fabric at a time, or a couple of them if you feel confident enough in your cutting skills. That will save a lot of time. And look at how cute my scraps are. I've been using my brand new fabrics for a lot of projects lately, and it's a very good thing it's a scrappy project because I always struggle to cut into new fabric. In fact, I'm the kind of person who buys the fabric, strokes it for a week, and then gets the courage to cut it. Okay, here are our strips, and we have so many different fabrics here. Look how gorgeous this is. So let's just go ahead and order them now so we can easily sew them later without having to think a lot about it. And here's another way to make this trip around the world even easier. We sew one corner at a time. Because we're making 6 square corners, I'm going to split these into 2 different groups, warms and colds. In the end, we want the 2 groups to be as similar as we possibly can make them, so let's divide our fabrics evenly. That means that when one corner finishes, the other begins. So the first rule of my pattern is to have a white fabric in the middle. And now we just keep placing our fabrics in a similar way for both groups until we've used up all our fabrics. We are sewing 6 strips together at a time. All I know is I need 6 9-inch or so strips for each corner, so to make a complete trip around the world diamond, I need at least 4 of those. Now don't worry if this math is sounding a little bit complicated at the moment, it will all make sense pretty soon. Let's keep sewing. Now the reason why I wanted to make this video is I've been seeing a lot of first-time quilters arrive at our channel, and before anything else, welcome! I'm so happy you found us and I hope we have a lot of fun together. I remember when I was first learning how to quilt, there were so many projects I wanted to try but had no idea how, and everything felt so overwhelming. Well, that's what this video is all about. You start here with this project. We do this together, and once you're finished, you will feel incredibly proud of what you've just created, and you will want to do more and more. And that's how you catch the quilting bug. You're welcome. Look at how cute this is on its own. We really didn't need to do much, but we are. Guys, how cute is this looking already? Time to press our seams in place, and we want them to push all in the same direction. Time to turn these beautiful rectangles into tubes, and we do that by sewing the 1st and the 6th row together. We need to make sure our fabrics are nice and aligned. I'm not saying wonkiness will ruin the whole quilt, but being as straight as we possibly can does help. This is what we have, and it's time to cut. We want to cut 6 1.5-inch strips out of each of these tubes, and that's the size we're using because that's the size of the original strips. We use this size because we want squares. If you're looking for rectangles for your trip around the world, then you won't need to cut the exact same size. And this may very well be the scariest part of the whole project, because it requires a little bit of precision when cutting that you may not have yet, and that's okay. What you need to know is it helps to line up your strips as well as you can before cutting. It's also a very good idea to trim off the top before you start cutting. That is why I give it some wiggle room. Most importantly, even if your squares end up wonky, I can guarantee the end result will look awesome regardless, so just keep going one strip at a time. These are my puzzle pieces and it's time to do a little bit of puzzling. Here's how we do this. We organize our strips to start with our white in both groups, okay? Then we get our seam ripper and we open our tube at the top of it, just like so. And that's how our puzzle starts. Next, we're going to go down a square and open the seam here at the bottom of the white square. Then we place it next to our first one. Next, we open the seam at the top of the third square and you see where we're going with this, right? We just keep going down a square until we're done. You could add a number to the strip if it helps keep you organized, and this is what we've got. Let's do the same for all our pieces. And now we just sew all these pieces together, turning our strips back into a square. So just so we're clear, we've cut fat quarters into strips, then we sew the strips together before cutting them back into strips, only to sew them back into a square once more. Quilting is crazy, but so magical. And here's the thing, quilting is so much more than just cutting fabrics and sewing them back up. For one thing, where quilting is concerned, the end result is so much more than just the sum of the parts. Meaning when you're finished with a quilt pattern, you don't just get a couple of fabrics sewn together, you get a unique piece of art that is so much more than just that. Also, quilting is all about the journey and the pleasure, and the piece you get from doing it is quite often more important than actually getting a finished quilt in the end, and nothing can replace that. Okay guys, let's do this for all our squares. And now that we have all our squares, it's time to press them. And this is a very important step, because the more we press them, the better they will look once they're all together. Almost there, guys. The next step is to create our final puzzle, where we get to place all the squares we've been making all this time and create a mini trip around the world sequence. Now we sew it all together again. Look at this, guys. Look at how gorgeous this is looking. How absurdly simple is this? This is the most fun we'll ever have. Let's go. And here we have it, our mini trip around the world quilt top pattern finished and looking absolutely gorgeous. I'm addicted, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye!